Access to communication in the widest sense is access to knowledge, and that is vitally important for us if we are not to go on being patronized by condescending sighted people. We do not need pity, nor do we need to be reminded that we are vulnerable. We must be treated as equals, and communication is the way we can bring this about.
Prior to 1829, Americans who were blind or visually impaired were a neglected sector of society. The opening of the New England Asylum for the Blind, now the Perkins School, by John Dix Fisher, Samuel Gridley Howe, and Thomas Hannison Perkins radically broke barriers in education, raising awareness for those with disabilities and continues to increase the independence of the people living with visual impairments today. Since ancient times, the visually impaired were seen as worthless and helpless. Blind people were sent to workhouses, poorhouses, or asylums. Many believed the blind could never learn anything. They weren't able to read, write, do math, and much less get a job or contribute to society. They were hidden away.
Because blind children in the 1800s hardly ever left their house. They didn't go to school because there were no schools.
This changed in 1784 when Valentin Huet opened the first blind school in Paris after being influenced by the writings of Abbé de l'Épée. His school was called l'Institution Nationale des Jeunes Aveugles, or the INJA. Other schools in Europe opened after the initial success of the INJA, including schools in Liverpool, Vienna, Amsterdam, and Stockholm. One famous alumnus of the INJA was Louis Braille, who was blinded at the age of 3. While attending the INJA, he sought after a better way to read and write. In 1829, he invented Braille, a series of raised dots that could be felt to represent letters. As Braille became more popular throughout the world, it further proved that the visually impaired could be educated.
Though the United States was behind in blind education, this changed with Samuel Gridley Howe and John Dix Fisher, who attended Harvard Medical School simultaneously. Fisher, whilst on a trip to Europe, toured the INJA. Here he noticed blind children enjoying their childhood while receiving an education. Fisher felt compelled to replicate this back in the United States, returning to Boston to campaign for a similar school. Luckily for Fisher, America had entered the age of reform. From abolitionist movements to prison reform, the time was right for educational attitudes and changes for the visually impaired. Fisher and colleagues campaigned the Massachusetts state government to start a school and received a $6,000 grant. Needing a director, Fisher asked Samuel Gridley Howe to lead the way for the New England Asylum. Howe, already being involved in the reform movement, accepted. In order to prepare for this new barrier-breaking undertaking, Howe visited the INJA and the Royal School in Liverpool. In August 1832, Howe officially opened the first school dedicated to educating the blind in the United States, operating it out of his own home. After 1 year, he had 34 students, causing Howe to contact Fisher to seek an alternate location. Fisher reached out to the wealthiest man in Boston, Colonel Thomas Hannison Perkins, who graciously offered his South Boston mansion as long as $50,000 could be raised by the end of May. Various women's groups in nearby towns were able to complete this task successfully. However, 6 years later, the school's enrollment had nearly doubled and a bigger facility was needed. Again, Howe contacted Perkins, and Perkins agreed to purchase the Mount Washington Hotel in Jamaica Plain, Boston. The school remained at the site for 73 years until it relocated to Watertown, Massachusetts, where it remains today. For all these contributions, the New England Asylum was renamed the Perkins School. Though Howe was initially inspired by the European schools, he had innovative ideas of his own. One such barrier-breaking idea was a change in curriculum. Howe and the board of directors stated that the regulations of the school are simple. We propose to give them, the blind, an education to which their situation will admit. To Howe, that meant vocational skills and household skills, as well as more traditional subject matter knowledge. Howe taught reading, writing, and arithmetic much like the European schools, but also added geography, philosophy, astronomy, history, geometry, and French. To accommodate student needs, tools such as arithmetic boards, counting frames, braille slates, tactile maps, and 3D models were utilized, along with the basics of reading and writing in braille. Other activities important to Howe included sports, like gymnastics and wrestling, music, like piano lessons, and art. According to Gabriel Fennell, a former director of Perkins, the aim of Perkins Institution is to prepare young people to lead poised and purposeful lives. Lessons in letter writing, as well as sewing, farming, and composition were added to the curriculum as teaching evolved. Though Perkins was firmly established by 1832, Dr. Howe felt more work was to be done. While school was out of session, Howe selected several of his brightest students and toured the 24 U.S. states. Howe and his students demonstrated the skills learned at Perkins, amazing spectators, and campaigning for awareness. As a result of Howe's tour, 6 states soon were compelled to begin their own schools. Nevertheless, there were still those who thought Howe was wasting his time trying to teach the unteachable. For example, a well-known lawyer, Sir William Blackstone, said that the blind were incapable of any understanding, as wanting all those senses which furnished the human mind with ideas.
Ignoring naysayers, Perkins continued to flourish. Just 5 years after the opening, New Hampshire native Laura Bridgman enrolled at Perkins. She was both deaf and blind, and Howe personally taught her. Using Boston line type, an original method of blind communication, Howe labeled items and rearranged them. Without any mistake, Laura was able to properly relabel the items, again proving the education capability of the visually impaired. Her education continued with the Perkins curriculum. Another Perkins alumnus of note was Annie Sullivan. Found living in neglect in nearby Tewksbury, Massachusetts, she was sent to Perkins. Like Bridgman, she successfully completed the Perkins curriculum and was compelled to teach other students with visual impairments. As many know, she was sent to Alabama to teach Helen Keller. With some missteps along the way, Sullivan sought to teach Keller with tactile sign language, a form of communication where one finger spells using ASL into another's hand. Understanding what Annie was teaching her was hard until, according to a note later written by Keller, "Suddenly, I felt a misty consciousness as of something forgotten, a thrill of returning thought, and somehow the mystery of language was revealed to me. I knew then that WATER meant the wonderful cool something that was flowing over my hand. That living word awakened my soul, gave it light, hope, joy, set it free." By 1888, Keller was ready to continue education at Perkins. She learned the basic curriculum and happily spent much of her time in the Perkins Library and Tactile Museum of Science, studying anatomy, biology, and botany by touch. Sullivan and Keller spent decades inspiring others and raising additional awareness for the capabilities of the disabled, and for that, the Keller-Sullivan Memorial Garden was so named. Since its opening in the 19th century, Perkins, led by staff and alumni, have continued to thrive and change, especially in the area of technology. The school switched from their own form of blind communication, the Boston line type method, to the more common Braille. In 1947, the Perkins Brailler was invented by David Abraham. It was a large improvement from the traditional slate and stylus. The Brailler somewhat resembled a typewriter. It could produce Braille much faster, and students didn't have to write backwards. The machine was durable, but also very heavy and tough to move.
They're great. They don't break. They're wonderful. However, people complained about a few things. It's metal, it's heavy to carry around. Imagine 20 students in a class all doing this at the same time. It's loud.
Other changes have included curriculum content, activities, teaching methods, and styles. Perkins has a strong physical curriculum, and team sports, including wrestling and goalball, are played against other blind schools. Subsequently, Perkins has changed over the years. After the U.S. government passed the Individuals with Disabilities Act in 1974, visually impaired children must be offered the opportunity to attend public schools, an option in which 90% of visually impaired students choose. As a result, Perkins now has only 167 full-time students, but they can still be residential or just attend during the day.
Mostly, I think now the teachers try to impart to the students that they themselves are valuable.
Additionally, Perkins helps those with visual impairments attending public schools using itinerant instruction, where Perkins may send faculty to public schools to either teach the visually impaired or to train administrators on how to teach a visually impaired student.
I've been more confident at school especially, so whenever I need like a worksheet enlarged or something isn't working, I'm more able to like go up to a teacher and tell them like, hey, this isn't working, I need help.
In fact, Perkins just recently spent $30 million to build a new lower school and modernized classrooms. Furthermore, Perkins hosts weekend courses, teaching the visually impaired many skills needed in real life, like cooking and how to use public transportation. Perkins' ability to adapt to the needs of students has further cemented its role in history. Moreover, blind students have succeeded in the fields of innovation, law, medicine, music, and many other careers due to the impact of the Perkins School. To conclude, Perkins School for the Blind impacted the lives of many students as well as society by adding new technologies to further assist the blind community. These new technologies, paired with innovative educational methods, broke the barrier of negligence of both blind and disabled people and made it possible for them to become more independent in society. More than 250 schools for the blind operate around the world as a result of the successes at the Perkins School for the Blind.
Perkins had a slogan: obstacles are things to be overcome.